see them do for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends.
What's going on, everybody?
Say,
this is Super Mike 2164.
They really say, I love you.
What's up, everybody? This is Super Mike 2164.
We're
going to get started in a second.
There's not much more I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? This is Super Mike 2164. And I want y'all to understand a couple things here. We're going to go over a couple of lessons that I think that's important. I see this pattern that looks to me as if somebody wants us to erase our own future. That's what I look and see. Right now we have the avatar of Chicago mayor, affectionately known in the Black community as Uncle Mammy. Uncle Mammy. Also in Chicago, one of the prominent Black figures, Oprah Winfrey, childless. Uncle Mammy has no children from her own lineage. We're looking at public figures such as Vivica Fox, Don Lemon, and it's mostly women, I'm noticing. Stacey Abrams, Issa Rae. These people have made these choices to go through life, and you struggle, you strive, you learn all sorts of lessons, you become successful in your craft in your lifetime, and you don't have the sense and understanding and wisdom to understand epigenetics, genetics. You just let this life go past and not continue your DNA, your lineage. You just let it die. It's worse than suicide. There's a thing called epigenetics. And it started from a racist, or eugenics, I should say. Epigenetics is also, well, we'll talk about epigenetics, because epigenetics, basically, they looked into the history of people, into your DNA. All of the experiences of the people that happened before you has an effect on your genetic expression, good and bad. And what happens here, You can have lessons passed on, but you can also have trauma passed on. And the thing is, when you just destroy your DNA, meaning you don't even do it on purpose. You choose. It's not because you're poor, not because you can't take care of a family, not because you can't afford to continue your family line. You actually choose to just go ahead and destroy your family line just by becoming impotent on purpose. Then you don't even pass on your knowledge to the next generation by adopting. If you notice, most of the successful lineages in time and history, people that we admire, sometimes some folks admire, folks like the Rothschilds and the Oppenheimers and all of these rich families. You can go trace African kings and queens back thousands of years. A lot of the Normans, Williams, all of these white families, Smiths, these folks can trace their lines, their family lines back centuries, and some of them 1,000 years. But it seems like when black folks get some money, we get a little money, we get a little fame, and it's something out here there's some sort of propaganda that's teaching us once we make it, we literally began to stop understanding family, understanding the requirement. The one requirement that the human or any life has is to continue itself. I don't care how cracked out you are. I don't care how crazy you are. If you continued your life, we got a chance. The species has a chance to develop and elevate itself. I call into mind, we can look at Les Brown. We know the stories of Les Brown. This man, Les Brown, he was an adopted son. He's a twin. Les Brown achieved a lot of success, but his parents, his biological parents, they could have been considered unfit. Okay, look at Shaquille O'Neal. This is an adopted man. Look at Simone Biles. Her mother, drugs. This is something that you won't. Look at Ben X. This man was born in prison. He never seen his father. His mother was, he wasn't raised by his own mother. But look how prominent this man is, and look how much of a value to the world these people are. So a lot of times we have these silly ideas just because this one individual in this one lifetime is maybe they're stupid or crazy or they're self-destructive, and then we get this idea that they should not be allowed to procreate. And that kind of idea, that propaganda comes from this insidious idea of the eugenicists. This is the white supremacist. Now I'm gonna show a couple of clips here, and then I want to get into a couple individuals that prompted me to have this conversation, and then we'll click out. Because the thing is, this conversation is way back in the day. Frances Cress Welsing
are parallel to black people's rights. That is,
so Frances Cress Welsing, who is one of our great scholars, she came up with the ISIS papers, and hold on, that's Frances Cress Welsing right there. These people we should know. And see, a lot of times I'm noticing that when we're talking to people, especially these younger cats, maybe their parents didn't pay attention to any knowledge in their day, and they passed on stupidity to their own children. Maybe they passed on ignorance, meaning lack of knowledge, to their own children. And this has to go away in order for us to gain power. Francis Cress Welsing had this debate with William Shockley, which was a Stanford professor. He's a decorated Stanford professor. Okay, this is an absolute racist, this man, but he's a scientific racist. He's literally, he's not out here trying to shoot you to death. He's literally trying to eliminate your existence from the future. This is his thing. And he said something. He telegraphed the new strategy for the eugenicists. Because back in the day, we'll check this one out. And we'll check this out.
Eugenicist Julian.
So there's a guy named Francis Galton. He is Charles Darwin's cousin. He was the leader. Excuse me. He was the guy who Francis Galton is the guy who coined eugenicist. Margaret Sanger is a famous eugenicist. Okay, and what they want to do, so back in the day, hold on. We're going to check this out before I'm gonna stop talking. I just want you guys to see this part. And this is 21st century Ma'afa, Maafa. Now I'm using this under fair use, so we're going to have some teaching commentary, from the copyright law of Section 107. I'm not going to show the movie in entirety, but we're going to show a couple clips because I want guys to understand some key points. Okay, we're dealing with figures like Margaret Sanger, Francis Galton. We'll show his picture later. And this was a society. A society is something that's going to stay with you and keep trying to achieve its goal until the goal is done. A society is going to pass on down the lines. Eugenicist. This is something we should know. Everybody that's watching, make sure you press any thumbs up, love button on Facebook. Press any any like emoji or whatever, and go ahead, share the message. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, follow it, and you can follow it on Twitch too. And you guys go ahead and spread this message out because it's very important for people to know this, because we got a lot of people falling into these propaganda traps because they don't know who their enemy is, because their enemy has kind of went to the shadows. So let's look at this here.
Population. Hardin was a member of the American Eugenics Society and an outspoken advocate of government-enforced birth control, saying that citizens should be willing to give up their right to breed for the betterment of society.
Look, government-enforced birth control. Remember, people didn't want to do that because they had to force them. Garrett Hardin is professor of human ecology at the University of California. Okay? It's not a question of freedom versus non-freedom. If we defend the freedom to breed, we shall ultimately lose all other freedoms as a result of unbearable overcrowding. Remember the population control argument? That's the propaganda that Bill Gates was talking under in 2015. We'll see it. I might show that clip. But population control, by denying the right of individuals to breed without possible limit. See, the one-child China policy, that kind of thought process. We can at least make it possible to preserve other freedoms that may, on examination, be deemed more precious than the freedom to breed. Okay, so this is propaganda. This is their objective. They believe in this stuff. It's a religion.
In 1980, he was given Planned Parenthood's highest national award. He and his wife would later kill themselves in a joint suicide pact.
Wow.
There were, of course, some within the eugenics movement who were uncomfortable with the idea of using force, and they would often express their reservations about it in public. But when pressed, virtually none of them would rule it out, including Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger.
I consider that the world and almost our civilization for the next 25 years is going to depend upon a simple, cheap, safe contraceptive to be used in poverty-stricken slums, jungles, and among the most ignorant people.
Okay, so you got to realize that you got to realize that when you get statements from folks who control a budget and who control policy in organizations, these people don't have to beg and ask to do something. When they say something, this is what they're doing. Okay, they're doing it. So when you get a quick statement, it's not something that you can really just ignore, because this is the policy. Where are they going to use this contraceptive? Okay, where is this going to be? It needs to be cheap. Okay, it can't kill you right away. It needs to be used in poverty-stricken slums. Okay, so that's where a lot of black folks live and others. And in jungles. So that's in the third world, over in Africa and Brazil, South America, any of these places. And among the most ignorant people. So they determine you ignorant. Now, the thing is, if this had happened, we wouldn't have Les Brown. We wouldn't have, folks like maybe Ben X and Simone Biles. We wouldn't have, there's a lot of folks whose parents is lackluster. You wouldn't have Shaquille O'Neal. You wouldn't have, there's a lot of people. And there's a lot of people we don't have that could have been brilliant because of these policies. Let's keep going here. I just want us to get it section by section, because this is a very important concept for us to actually understand these people. You should not be empathizing. Well, she is saying some truth. No, they want you dead. Well, maybe I should be dead. See, we can't. This is the reason why we have to teach this stuff in a way where people actually understand that in order to get the success and power that you want, you have to have the mindset of development. You can't have the mindset of just agreeing with your enemy. When you're agreeing with people who literally want to erase you from the planet, they want to erase your genetic line from the planet. That is even worse than just murdering you, because they want your kids dead.
Even this will not be sufficient, because I believe that now, immediately, there should be national sterilization for certain dysgenic types of our population who are being encouraged to breed and would die out.
So remember that word, dysgenic types. See, dysgenic types.
Were the government not feeding them? Margaret Sanger, 1950.
This was written by Sanger in a personal letter to Catherine Dexter McCormick. McCormick was an heir to the international harvester fortune and would later use part of her immense wealth to fund the development of the birth control pill.
In 1966, an example of the coercive power of state eugenics laws.
Now, I just want everybody to understand the birth control pill. Now, right now, we find that as, oh, that's not bad. See, this is part of the propaganda, because it's there's nothing wrong with yourself and your family controlling your birth. But there's methods you can be taught in order to control your family population. You can do that. Okay. But the point is, the birth control pill has all sorts of side effects, uterine fibroids. It had all sorts of issues, and it still does. We still get these neuroplants. Women have all sorts of problems. They got this, I forgot all of these different things that they, stuff that they pop in, and then the women end up getting killed or dying or having hysterectomies because the stuff don't work right. It messes up their whole insides. So it's usually black women that have all of these problems here. Black women and indigenous women. Okay. And this is by design and by plan. You got to realize, because who's developing this technology? Their mindset is for your death. You have to resist people who want to kill you, well, they're developing stuff that we can help. We should be helping ourselves. Well, let's develop our own thing. Let's develop our own clinics. Get that kind of mindset. Don't get the mindset of trusting people who literally want you dead just because they got the money and technology right now. We can get that stuff. Okay. And I just want us to get the mindset right, because a lot of times they're saying stuff that we've been propagated to just accept. And it's a cool thing for us now because they've been spending, all of this money for several decades to make it legitimate, to legitimize themselves.
Was seen in Maryland when 3 young mothers applied for welfare benefits. All 3 were arrested for child neglect, even though the authorities never claimed to have any evidence of abuse or neglect. Instead, the women were held under a state law which stated that simply being unmarried and pregnant was child neglect. The judge in this case warned the women that if they ever became pregnant again, the state would take custody of all their children. Officials in Prince George's County, where the arrest took place, stated that welfare recipients could avoid being prosecuted under this law by submitting to state-sponsored birth control education.
In 1934, Adolf Hitler sent a letter to American eugenicist Leon Whitney, complimenting him for a book he had written on sterilization. Whitney was the former executive secretary of the American Eugenics Society and a colleague of Margaret Sanger's. Sanger also published his writings in the Birth Control Review.
In the book that Hitler was praising, Whitney had written that America could eliminate what he called the slum elements of society by sterilizing the lowest 25% of its population. He claimed this was necessary because such people are too stupid to understand or practice even simple methods of contraception. Besides, he said, the country would hardly miss them. One of the people he was talking about was named Elaine Riddick.
At the age of 13, I became pregnant. I was raped by a guy that lived across the street from me. He snatched me off the street and molested me and threatened my life and said if I ever told anyone that he would kill me. When they was delivering my son, they sterilized me at the same time. They had approached my grandmother and said that if she wanted to continue to receive supplement, welfare and food stamps, or at this time they was giving out these surplus foods, canned cheese, I think it was, powdered eggs, and said that if she did not sign the X, that they were going to stop her supplements. Mind you, my grandmother was illiterate. She had never, ever gone to school. She didn't understand what it was. So she signed the X, and they did this to me. I did not find out that they had sterilized me until I was 19 years old. I asked the state of North Carolina why they did this to me, and they said that because I was feeble-minded, that I would not be able to take care of myself, I would not be able to tie my shoes, that I was just incompetent. The state of North Carolina also said that I had never performed, at the age of 13, I had never performed a day's work in my life. They couldn't get me to do anything. But at the age of 13, I mean, should I not have been in school? They were saying that feeble-mindedness is
feeble-mindedness.
So they sterilized me so I would not produce my kind. Mind you, I am not illiterate, nor am I feeble-minded. I never went into high school, but yet I still acquired a college degree. They also justified that my child or my children would be feeble-minded. My son is the president of his own semiconductor company. He has his own construction company. And he has his own real estate company. I mean, how can you think that your government allowed or allowing these things to happen to a person, a life? You can't say nothing, you have no rights. To me, they took away all of my rights. They sterilized kids from my understanding and my knowledge as young as 8 years of age.
Mm.
I don't know what an 8-year-old can do that could cause them to do this to them. The only reason I can give myself is that because they're black.
In 1961, social worker Sue Casebolt had been installed as the executive secretary of the North Carolina Eugenics Board.
Now, see, look at this. North Carolina Eugenics Board. This is something that, like I said, if we don't understand these basic stuffs, we fall into these traps. Now, this is official. This is science. They're calling you feeble-minded. Okay, this is a whole society. This is where white supremacists come from. This is their word. These are the same group of people who invented that word, white supremacists. Okay, Lothrop Stoddard. I want to show this
problem
part.
In genetics.
Now, this here in 1974, Frances Cress Welsing. This is our hero. She's battling this guy, William Shockley. He's a eugenicist. This is their objective. Now, I'm just going to play it for a minute.
We know about genetics, what we know about the condition of skin whiteness itself. The condition of skin whiteness is the genetic inability to produce skin pigment called melanin. This is a genetic recessive trait. It is a genetic deficiency state, not as defined by Frances Welsing, but defined by geneticists and dermatologists, that the inability to produce the skin pigment of melanin or melanin pigment is described as albinism. And I think that white people, even though most white people are not consciously understanding their problem in genetics, they are certainly aware that they are genetically dominated by people of color. That's why it was a statement, one drop of black blood makes you black, because people of color have the genetic capacity to annihilate white people. And so unless white people control...
Look how he's looking at her. He's looking at her like, damn, they found out, they know. And she's not stupid looking. And she's expressing it. Okay? You see, when you create these records in history, now the future generations can go back and we can show the objectives of these folks. Because you got to realize, Black folks just coming out of slavery, and some of us just coming out of some of our issues and our family problems, all the stuff that we have to deal with. There's groups of white people, and not all white people, there's groups of white people that are planning 30, 40, 50, 100 years ahead of us to put their group. That's the reason why their group gets a step ahead of us. So as we're playing catch up, our ancestors are leaving us clues that we can go back and check, and now we can get the pattern and we can see the plan, because you can't defend something if you don't see it, if you don't understand what's going on. So he's pissed, but I don't want to show the whole thing. This is one part I wanted to show what he tells us his objective. Let's look at this here. Let's look. Let's see if we can.
I think I might just at this point say that in a time like 1 hour, we may expose a problem and encourage thinking about it, and this is a very valuable thing. But to cover either Dr. Welsing's views or mine, and let me say here are, just to show that these things exist, is a pamphlet that she was good enough to give me some time ago.
This one's upside down.
Well, that one's upside down.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right.
feeble-mindedness.
And this is one of my own. It's actually a collection of a debate.
The imperatives of ethnic education is yours.
This is the issue of the journal. Mine was, the title of my paper is somewhat different from this, but I want to say that speaking for myself, if people would like to write to me at Stanford University, I have a post box there, Post Box S, which is the same as Shockley and Stanford. I will try to supply more information, and I'm sure Dr. Welsing will say what she can do about telling people how to reach her pamphlet. Okay. But now let me say this chart that I held up a moment ago is very important in respect to this question of why I think there may be what proves a basic difference. But I'm going to say that if there were not a basic difference.
Now, if you can't see this, it says basically black, white. So he's looking at how many children per woman. Basically, if you're uneducated and then the college graduate. So he has the uneducated on our left. He has the college graduate on our right. At this time, the blacks have 5.4 children per woman. These are uneducated people. But when they graduate college, they'll have 1.7 women per children. At that time, the whites, when they were uneducated, they would have 3.5 children per woman. This is according to his numbers. And at that time, the whites who graduated college, they would have 2.3 children per woman, which is above the replacement rate. So the thing is, now we understand, if you look at this, if this is true, this is good for white people, these numbers here, because if them having education, they're above their replacement rate, and then their uneducated people are the workers. That's enough for them to be working. And plus, they're actually a minority. White people are actually the minority on the planet. But the black college graduates have less than their replacement rate. Unless when they get educated. So this is what he's talking about here. So let me keep going.
In intellectual capacity in the past, there probably will be a basic difference between black and white intellectual capacity in the future, simply because of the reproduction patterns. And these are Census Bureau data, and this is the most threatening aspect. And what it indicates is that for the black women of the lowest intellectual social class, which are rural farm women, generally the education is least, the average number of children is 5.4. For women with college degrees, it's 1.9. And so this is definitely unfavorable. It is reproducing far more at the bottom end and not enough to keep even at the top end.
Dr. Shockley, can
for
you
whites,
explain?
let me just finish this. For whites, the numbers are also in this direction, but nowhere nearly as severe.
Dr. Shockley, I think that in all fairness, you should explain to the audience why it is that you have, first of all, you have a very large segment of the black population who are on farms, who are deprived in cities. Why don't you explain at the time that you're showing this, who is keeping black people in a situation like they're in? I mean, it could be, you could turn it around the other way, where you could have very large numbers of black people who are exposed to educational opportunities like white people, who are exposed to housing, who are exposed to health facilities. Why don't you explain that at the same time that you put figures like that?
I'm sure you would explain it,
no, but
Dr.
I think
Welsing,
it's important
but
in
one must say first things first. And you've raised the basic question there, and that is whether the disadvantages are primarily a lack of opportunity or whether they are primarily a basic genetic difference. And let me mention one thing, which is that in certain areas there is no doubt about black superiority. Blacks are superior in visual acuity, and they're superior in a systematic way. Now, I don't expect that people will understand the details of this, but I simply want to show that quantitative work can be done. This happens to be a research job of my own. And what it shows, because these points that you see here lie on a line, which is not the central line, but they lie systematically on a line, what it says is that so far as visual acuity is concerned, blacks are systematically better than whites. It's as if their bell-shaped curve, their distribution curve, were pushed upwards compared to whites for visual acuity, or at least for the avoidance.
See, so we have to really understand this here. This man here, first of all, if you want to do birth control, then give everybody a good education. So if now we understand, they start pushing education, but they push it not in an even smart way to the men and the women. They push more education towards just the women and kind of leave the men stupid. So that way, eventually in the future, there'll be an imbalance, and then the women will, they won't be on the same level. And so, you're going to have these arguments based on a wide difference. So this is, you got to realize these people who are talking this racism stuff, this eugenics movement in society, it's not the broke white folks. These are the white folks with the billion-dollar budgets. So their policies, they're the ones giving you jobs and stuff. They're the ones funding the universities. They're the ones funding the science and the research studies. So these are the ones pulling the strings. These are those kind of races. So this is not lightweight. You can't just ignore this here, because they're actually putting in a certain propaganda to get you to agree to their position.
Avoidance of bad eyesight, such that if the same shift occurred for IQ, it would mean that the average IQ distribution would be up by 9 points rather than down by about 15 points, which is the typical average.
Dr. Shockley, visual acuity is probably something that the system of white supremacy has not necessarily seen the need to affect the environment that black people are in, so that it will alter the fact that they have visual acuity that is superior to whites. The fact of visual acuity is not attacked in the same way as educational opportunity and job performance is attacked. And I think that
it's evidence for a genetic difference, in
well,
my
you see
opinion.
what I'm saying? There might be many, many more genetic differences where people of color appear superior.
If I may, we have a number of people, and we'd like to get to as many as possible. If you could make your answers as, not to compromise your explanation, but if you could make your answers as succinct, I would appreciate it, because we would like to involve the public as much as we can. One moment, please. You're on Black Journal. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was wondering if Dr. Shockley could explain the basic difference between the course he is taking in explaining white supremacy and the course that Hitler took during the Nazism reign.
Thank you.
Well, there are enormous differences. In fact, the lesson to be learned from Nazi history is frequently very misunderstood. And it is a lesson which Mr. Brown has told us about earlier. It's the First Amendment. It's not that eugenics is intolerable. Actually, the eugenic programs, which are the opposite of dysgenics, eugenic programs are...
Remember that word, dysgenics. Eugenics, he says, is the opposite of dysgenics. Remember, we heard dysgenics before, but is it really the opposite? So let's listen.
Are not inconceivable, they're not inhumane. Denmark has been carrying out programs with strong eugenic implications for maybe 30 years. And it's important to note that since World War II, Denmark's per capita homicide rate dropped and is now approximately 1/20th. That is, the number of deaths of probability of being killed in a year by a violent homicide is roughly, the order of 100 times less for young Danes than it is for young American blacks. Now, but the lesson, let me say what the lesson of Nazi history we have in this country, and it will protect us. It's just the thing that makes this program possible. The First Amendment, which allows freedom of speech. If one believes that is not the right answer, then one has to be one of the most anti-German racists there can be. If one believes that the German people would have tolerated the concentration camps and the gas chambers, if news media, like the programs that Mr. Brown is setting on, if those people were willing to bring discordant views out into the open, I don't believe the concentration camps and the gas chambers could have continued to exist in Germany.
I'd like to comment, because I'd like to say that I don't think that there's a major difference between what Dr. Shockley is doing. I don't think that Dr. Shockley is fully aware of what he is doing and why he is doing what he's doing. But the long-range implications of what he is doing are no different than the propaganda campaign that Hitler Hitler and his Nazi unit carried on in Germany that ended up eliminating 6 million Jewish people. Now, what is most interesting is that Hitler said the very same thing. He said, number one, that the Jews were genetically inferior to the Aryans. Number two, he was aware that the Semites had genetically dominant material, genetic material to the Aryans. And if we begin to understand the way that people who were in Europe at the time that the Semites arrived from Africa, when the Semites arrived in Europe from Africa, they were people who had substantial amounts of color and who had very kinky hair because they were from the continent of Africa. And the Europeans, the white people who were there, had a reaction, a color reaction to the Semites that is no different than the reaction and the concern on the part of people who are white in this area of the world or any other area of the world to people who have the genetic capacity to produce color, who can genetically annihilate their position. And I think it's very, very important.
So there's another thing here. William Shockley, if you notice here, he's trying to paint it to say that basically white people are superior genetically, because this is what he's been taught. This is what he's teaching. He's teaching people in Silicon Valley. That's where Stanford University is. Stanford University is in the area right now where Facebook and Google, YouTube, and all those guys are at. That's where Stanford is. That's where this man taught. This is the people in that zone, in that area where he literally was teaching. And some of the prominent members there right now are probably some of his former students. Okay. So we need to understand this stuff, because this stuff does not just go away because someone dies. And just like Frances Cress Welsing, she really took apart she said that he may not understand, but this man knows what he's doing because he's part of a society. And the point is, she was talking about the long range implications. Okay, and this is something we need, but also we need to understand the reason why. And he's trying to say that black people are inferior to him, but she's handling him very, very. This is the debate, but it's very reasonable. It's fair. It's on a black platform. So the black people back in the 60s, they fought hard enough. They got black programs that they controlled. Tony's Journal, which used to be called Black Journal. But the thing is, this man's being treated fair, but he can't win in a situation of fairness. You know, the white supremacists cannot defeat us, even when we don't know what the hell's going on. They teach themselves that we're inferior, but the top brass of them know they're in a genetically inferior position on the planet, and they're in a numerically inferior position on the planet if they want to use superior and inferior. And this is what scares them, but they are not going to project fear. They are trying to, in their view, they're trying to save their lives. All right. So let's look some more.
Even though Dr. Shockley, I am convinced that Dr. Shockley believes that he is perhaps elevating science with all of his charts and all of his figures, but he doesn't understand the things that propel him as a white individual in a social system that has programmed him throughout his life and programmed large numbers of people like him to focus on the genetics of people of color in such a way as to destroy people of color.
I would like to ask a question, and Dr. Shockley, if you could answer it yes or no, I would appreciate it. Do you believe that black people are inferior in intelligence because of their heredity?
I have a standard statement. It is not yes or no. It's memorized. I say it at the same time every time, I think. What I say is this. My research leads me, and it's a tragic conclusion, really. My research leads me inescapably to the opinion that the major cause of the American Negro's intellectual and social deficits is hereditary and racially genetic in origin, and thus not remediable to a major degree by practical improvements in environment.
All right.
So that means yes. He says he believes you're inferior because of your heredity, and no matter what environment you're put in, that you can't remedy that. There's no remedy. You must be killed. That's basically what he said. He said yes.
If you believe that the position relatively of black Americans to white Americans is based on a genetic inferiority, and I will accept the responsibility for that word, then what do you see as the solution to the problem?
Well, I see the first aspect of this is to prevent the problem from becoming worse by dysgenics. This first word that
Would you
I
translate
mentioned.
dysgenics for me and the audience?
Would
that be sterilization?
No. Dysgenics, you see, means what that other chart I showed you says.
Should blacks,
the least effective element.
Should blacks be sterilized?
No. I have a...
but if blacks are a problem and we do not...
See, now look, so you got to realize this is the 70s. The white supremacists have a new strategy, okay? Before, remember in the 60s, when we were looking at the other movie, here...
At a board meeting held 3 weeks later, she stated that she was going to keep a file on every child whose name reached her desk so that they could be picked up as soon as they reached childbearing age.
So she kept a file of every child so they could be picked up as soon as they were at childbearing age. This is how freaking nefarious and disgusting that the white supremacists were. Every child that was born in North Carolina in that area, they kept a ticker file on all persons whose names reached me, regardless of age, in order that I may be picked up as they reached the childbearing age. This is in the 60s. They was going after you. They're just trying to kill you, sterilize you. But in the 70s, let's listen to what their strategy is.
This is inhumane, and I think one can find more humane solutions to this.
Well, then how would... Then
I would propose something. Deficits is hereditary.
I will accept the responsibility for that word. Then what do you see as the solution to the problem?
Well, I see the first aspect of this is to prevent the problem from becoming worse by dysgenics. This first word that
Would you
that
translate
I mentioned.
Dysgenics for me and the audience?
Would
that be sterilization?
No. Dysgenics, you see, means what that other chart I showed you says.
Should blacks,
the least effective element.
Should blacks be sterilized?
No. I have a...
but if blacks are a problem and we do not allow...
This is inhumane. And I think one can find more humane solutions to this.
Well, then how would... Then
I would propose something in which one of the key phrases is regardless of sex, race, or welfare status. And this is the proposal. I call it a thinking exercise. It's mentioned in that pamphlet that I showed that you can obtain. And it goes this way, that you would offer a bonus to everyone to be sterilized. Now,
you hear that? That's their plan. You offer a bonus to everyone to be sterilized. So he wants you to choose to destroy your own family line. This is what's actually happening right now. And I'm going to show y'all that, and then we're going to get out. But I want to play that one more time just so we can get it. I hate to go back too much. Dysgenics.
No, I have a...
but if blacks are a problem and we do not allow...
This is inhumane. And I think one can find more humane solutions to this.
Well, then how would... Then
I would propose something in which one of the key phrases is regardless of sex, race, or welfare status. And this is the proposal. I call it a thinking exercise. It's mentioned in that pamphlet that I showed that you can obtain. And it goes this way, that you would offer a bonus to everyone to be sterilized. Now, we know we have a population explosion problem. We know that in India, that bonuses in the form of transistor radios are offered to people.
Would this bonus be directed to black people specifically, more than whites?
Mr. Brown, what did I say just a moment ago? I said, regardless of sex, race, or welfare status.
Now, there is a group...
That's what I say.
There is a group of white people to whom this offer should be made also.
Absolutely. Now, the offer will...
You see, so this is the thing is here. The white supremacists on the elevated level, they're going to kill some of their own white people, but they know they're going to be directing their propaganda towards blacks more. But they're going to kill some of they feel lower class white people because they want to confuse you. You look how Tony Brown was all confused. Well, some white people gonna get it too? No. So the point is, we have to stop this because these people don't have the right to determine who lives and who dies. But they're going to use their propaganda. They're going to use their money. So the thing is, black people can keep in mind, this is in the 70s, 1974. This is literally the year that I was born. But this is the propaganda that we grew up under because William Shockley, he went and taught. Now he's getting this from somewhere. So he's talking to a society before he presents this to the world like this. But he wants black people to go along with it. So this is the reason why he probably even came on this show. But, Frances Cress Welsing, she started teaching us, warning us about the white people. She wrote her book after this. And we know her very well because she did a good job at warning us about this. But this man here, William Shockley, he went and taught and started doing the stuff that he needed to do for his people. And this is what we got. So I'm going to show this part. Let me finish this little section off and then we'll done.
The offer is based upon the best estimates, best scientific estimates that one can have of any genetically carried disabilities. Now, there are some, I think, that any humane person would have no doubt about. And Dr. Welsing talked about dominant and recessive genes. I want to point out that sometimes a dominant gene can be a very bad thing, and it is a very bad thing for a neurological disease called Huntington's chorea, which is something like multiple sclerosis.
Which is more prominent in white people than black people.
That is correct. And I think that one should offer a large bonus for anyone who might be potentially carrying Huntington's chorea.
Dr. Shockley,
beyond this, it goes on with some other factors.
She's lighting them up because she's smart. And this is the reason why she's dominating him. And Tony, because she's smart to have the debate in a place where she would be able to dominate.
In this, but Dr. Welsing wishes to speak.
Are you aware that white people have more genetic diseases that affect their nervous system than people of color, than black people?
I wouldn't be at all surprised. And I think blacks apparently have higher heart problems.
Would you suggest that all of these white people who are carrying these defective genes, whose families may carry these defective genes, that they be examined and it would be suggested to them that they be sterilized? Would you suggest this?
Yes, I think I would, probably, in general.
Go ahead, you're on Black Journal, please.
What we know about ancient black civilizations, how can American blacks suddenly be genetically regressive?
Thank you.
Let me just say this. What is very interesting is in the study of biology, biologists who have studied evolution, one of the very interesting things that they say is that the more functional skin pigment cells in the animal kingdom, the higher you are on the scale of phylogenetic ascension. In other words, nature, in the course of evolution, went to its highest state when it produced a cell that could produce pigment, and that we were sliding backwards. The mutation to albinism is a step backwards in the scale of evolution. Are you aware of that, Dr. Shockley?
No, I'm not aware of that.
She blasted him this interview, guys. And this is what I'm saying. We got a lot of crazy pro-blacks out here that the word... Yeah, and like I said, we got to be careful with propaganda because every word that we use to develop and to advance our agenda, which is black power, meaning we should be in control of what affects us and what we eat. They want to demonize everything. They demonize the word woke. They demonize the word pro-black, and black folks actually fall into this. We hate to be called pro-black. That's propaganda. It's actually stupid to be a black person and not want to be pro who you are. If you're a conservative, aren't you pro-conservative proudly? We have to defend our psychological terminology and our definitions. But I want to go to this because I want to end this off. I actually went too long. Sorry about that, guys. But I just wanted to show this real quick about the dysgenics stuff. Okay, let's see here. All right, so we're looking at dysgenics. Here we go. Don Lemon. Don Lemon says he's thinking about starting a family with his gay fiance Tim Malone after they wed. Okay, this is crazy, but this is what this man is talking about. I don't even know if I want to listen to this. But appearing on virtual, I don't want to listen to it because right now I'm just trying to get through this. I just want to show us this is the incentive. We know that the only one that's on the same par as far as income with the white male is the homosexual black male. Okay, we know that. That's been proven. I'm not going to go into all those statistics. But appearing virtually on the Tamron Hall show, the 55-year-old, this man is 55-year-old with no children. The 55-year-old CNN anchor spoke candidly about his hopes for having children in the near future with his fiance, Tim Malone, a 36-year-old real estate agent. Okay, this is another man. How you going to have children with another man? Yes, I'm thinking about starting a family. Now, I guess if they want to adopt some people, but they're too selfish. Okay. Yes, I'm thinking about starting a family. Lemon told host Tamron Hall, adding that the couple planned to wait until after their wedding, which has been delayed due to COVID-19 pandemic, to have kids together. This is really insane. Listen, we got to get married first. Ugh. Lemon, added, we're thinking about, do we want to adopt? Do we want to go through surrogacy? Okay. Surrogacy at least will give the human species another chance to get it right with the genetics of Don Lemon. So at least if he goes through a surrogate, then it could be actual genes, and maybe, the next generation will be better. Okay. Okay, now listen. Ugh. Yeah. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to even read that because it's stupid. Anyway, Tim is the one to definitely to be the one to have the kid. So they want to actually hold the kid in the man's body. No, do a surrogacy with a woman, okay, and let her have the kid for you. So anyway, that's Don Lemon. We hear this. The county in County in Tennessee, inmates, they given a bonus. They given reduced jail time if they get a vasectomy. Inmates in White County, Tennessee have been given credit for their jail time if they would voluntarily agree to have a vasectomy or a birth control implant. A popular new program that's being called unconstitutional by the ACLU. Okay, no black people are defending this hardly, maybe except the Muslims. So, you can stay in rotten jail. That's why they give these black men such long jail sentences, because they don't want you to have no kids. A man who fathered 30 children with 11 different women said he need a break from child support. So that's child support. They kill you. Maybe you shouldn't have, and maybe you shouldn't have that many children, right? And you can't take care of them. I agree. But, because we have a void of men sitting up in jail, okay, these kind of brothers have the run. They got all of these women single. They don't have the men of their own. So you're going to get one guy that's going to do this. And this is in Tennessee. Remember, they're throwing guys in jail left and right. So you have all these single women out here. And, okay, the guys that's not in jail, they get to go through these women. This man got 30 children by 11 different women. So that's probably wrong, and I don't agree with that. But at the same time, you're dealing with the actual fact of reality. Everybody's not going to turn gay. This is what's going to happen. And this is because of these eugenic policies. That's why the men have to be sent to jail. And then they demonize this man. He's got to pay all his child support. But at the same time, we got this guy, super sperminator. He's as a hero. Look at this, the sperminator. And he's a hero. Guess what he looks like? Sperminator, who's close to fathering 100 children, says, "Don't focus on me." It's a white man. He's on Dr. Oz. Who's the daddy? And then I guess you're gonna have his he's not donating sperm. He's literally having sex with these women. So I mean that's just one, and just stupid. But black men doing this are not even a pandemic can stop the sperminator. Look at this. This man is, and he's doing this with black women. These are the black women. These are the women. He's doing the exact same thing as this man in Tennessee is doing. But they're going to destroy this man in Tennessee with child support. I just want everybody to see this real quick. We're about to be done. You get a vasectomy, you can get out of jail because you're no threat anymore. You can turn gay. You don't have any kids. That's cool. If you're if you're Cory Booker, you don't have any children, you get elevated. You're pretending, I don't know what Cory's doing. He should have had a kid by now. He's like 52 years old. No children. He's supposed to be something we look up to. Okay, we got Stacey Abrams, no kids. Stacey Abrams running around here. She's going to be supposed to be trying to be the governor of Georgia. And they didn't show good stuff there. I didn't pull it all up. Stacey Abrams, Democrat politicians. She's not married, but she wants to be the governor. She has no children. She's supposed to be the picture of success. She doesn't have any children because she can't, not because she can't, the men aren't attracted to her. Stacey Abrams is an attractive woman. There's a lot of guys that would like to date Stacey, and I'm sure probably even marry her, but she chose not to. Career over family. This is the bonus here. This is dysgenics at work. This is what it is. Issa Rae. These are successful people. You get more success if you don't have children. Issa Rae opened up about her feelings on having children someday. Okay, Issa Rae is in no hurry to be a mom. The actor, writer, producer, she's a successful person. She's attractive. And I'm extremely happy. I like my life. I like this selfishness. But when she says it, it's okay to be selfish. But, whatever. She's successful, okay? And I know that I have a window, she says. Black women, black women especially, unless you're Viola Davis or Angela Bassett, you have a window when people are going to want to continue to see you and then there's so many limitations placed upon you. So anyway, the bottom line is she feels that because she has to choose her career over family. Like I said, these are these individual choices. And of course, our propaganda is telling us to say, oh, well, what's the problem with these people making this choice? These are responsible people making responsible choices. That's the propaganda. So now who's winning? They don't have to force you to do this. You're choosing to do this to yourself so that you can get this bonus. Vivica Fox on not being a mother. I never met a man I can have children with. Vivica Fox is opening up about her motherhood journey. The Kill Bill star doesn't want to have children of her own, but has several godchildren that she dotes on. So she's going to suicide her family line, her genetics. She's going to suicide her actual genetics, and she's just going to I guess help others. And I mean, that's fine. Individual, if you're doing this, but the point is, we're getting this pattern. We're getting this dangerous pattern. Of course, we know Oprah, she's barren now. And she has a good family history line that she should have continued on. But, all she's got is billions of dollars. And when she dies, who's going to get that? Who's going to get it? So I don't know. I don't even know if did Prince have children? No. Prince, we're making these choices and we're putting everything over family, but then we want to maintain Black wealth. How do we do that? How does that work? So anyway, guys, I think I'm going to end this off. I think I made my point. It went on a little too long, but, let me know what you think. Do we have a wonderful world coming up, or are we going to just sit here and just have a little money and die off completely and then give the money back to white supremacists? Because that's what ends up happening. That's what happened to Prince. Michael Jackson, I think he did have a biological son, but they keep their children hidden. I think he did have a biological child. But Michael Jackson had those white children. You guys got to start thinking the long game. And see, this is how you gain power. This is how you gain those benefits. This is how your lineage is proud of you, instead of you looking back and saying how your parents failed and how Africa is failed and this is a shit whole country, or all these type of things, that all these negative perceptions we have about other Black people. You should be wanting to change that by helping the people who are trying to develop and change the future. You can't just do things in one generation. So anyway, guys, peace out.